Hey, Murphy guys. Now, this movie reviewing this movie that I definitely was very interested in, to say the least. I didn't really know how this movie was going to be, but I was very interested in it mainly because of the premise and also the distributor who was distributing it. But let's just get into it. That movie is none other than The Monster, which is A24's new film. I was cautiously optimistic. That's the best way I'm going to put it. I was cautiously optimistic with this movie. I didn't know how it was really going to be. It wasn't getting the best of reviews, and especially from the reactions that I heard on the movie preview, it didn't really seem like a lot of people were really looking forward to it, but I did hear amazing things about some of the performances and things about the movie, so I definitely was very much looking forward to it. Also, I love A24, as you guys know. They really haven't made a movie that I don't really love. I think most of their movies they've made, I really liked for the most part. I haven't seen all their movies, obviously, because they've made so many, but most of the ones I've seen from them, I really do love their stuff. I think, especially fairly recently, they've been making some incredible stuff. They've been just turning out great movie after great movie. And unfortunately, I have to say, The Monster is not one of those great movies. While I really wanted to love this movie, I really didn't. The Monster, unfortunately, is could have been, I think, a really interesting movie if it had a little bit more to it, and instead is a very dull, very sluggish, boring film that really could have gone a much different type of direction that at times kind of feels like a Lifetime movie, and I'll get into that when we get to the screenplay and things like that, but overall, I really want to love this movie more. Now, let's get to the plot of The Monster, which is, I think, about as by the numbers you could get. Really, you have Zoe Kazan, who she plays this mother who is a very severe alcoholic and things like that. She doesn't pay much attention to her daughter. Her daughter kind of wants her to be more involved in her life. And one day she's going to this party or something that she doesn't want her daughter to go to. I don't really know because it's literally the first 13 minutes of the movie to get all this out of the way. But either way, they're going to this thing, and their car ends up crashing, and very quickly they start to realize that there might be a monster among them, and the rest of the movie is basically them in the car trying to survive, and that basically is the plot of The Monster overall. Let's just get into this movie and talk about really where I think this really went wrong, and how it really could have been a lot better. So, in this movie, the thing that I heard was great are the performances. I heard that Zoe Kazan in this movie did a really great job, and that is absolutely the case. That is the one thing I will give. I think both of the lead performers did a really good job, but Zoe Kazan was great in this movie. I really thought she did a very good job of what she had, because, yeah, she doesn't really have much to work with here. Her character of Kathy is every alcoholic, unfit mother that you've seen, but Kazan really does rise to the occasion, and she definitely is up to play the role. You definitely do see that, and she tries to make the role a lot deeper than it is, and for the most part, it worked really, really well. It came across as very genuine. You really do, you don't necessarily feel bad for her, but you do understand what she's going through. You get that she genuinely does want to love her daughter, but unfortunately, because of what's happened to her, she can't really, and it's a very unfortunate circumstance, but I really did like her character, and I thought for the most part she did do over. Well, I didn't really like her character, but I thought for the most part her performance was really good, and I really did love what we saw of her here. I think Zoe Kazan's a really good actress, and I'm happy to see she's doing more stuff. I've always loved her since Ruby Sparks, and I'm very happy to see her here. I thought she was really good here. And the daughter as well. I thought her daughter in the movie, Ella Ballentine, was also really good as her daughter Lizzie. This is, again, typical daughter-type character that you've seen, but I thought for the most part she was really good. You could tell she really just wanted the affection and love of her mother, and she really would do anything for her, and even though her mother was treating her like absolute shit, she still was there for her, and I liked their bonding overall, and their bonding is definitely one of the best parts of this movie. You really do feel for these two. I think the chemistry definitely was very much there. I think for the most part they definitely did do a very good job. But that's really it in terms of positives for this movie. So with that said, let's just get into everything else, because besides the acting, this movie really is not that great. So the directing in this movie, I think, kind of is the main problem with this movie, honestly. Besides the screenplay, the directing in this movie is very, very off. I think I get what the director was trying to do. Like, Bryan Bertino, I've heard before, he makes a lot of these kind of not over the top, but a lot of these very, very slow type sluggish moving films, like The Strangers and things like that. And I think his directing this movie, for the most part, definitely worked. I don't think it was bad. His tone was very, very off, though, many times. I mean, the movie starts off for the first 13 minutes, it's a family drama. It's your typical family drama with her being an alcoholic and her daughter being in there, and they do set up the monster being there, but when the horror element comes in, I didn't really ever felt like it really fit in there. It kind of just felt like it kind of just snuck up on us, and oh, here's a monster to just pad the rest of the movie down. It felt like that was only there to be the inciting incident. Like, it wasn't really, which I get, you need inciting incident in a story, I understand that, but to me, it felt like that's the only reason why that was there. That the monster was just the conflict in this movie, and if the monster was not in this movie, there wouldn't really be much of a conflict, which I don't actually think is true. This could have been a really good story between a mother and a daughter and how much these two rely on each other and how they really need each other. I think they could have done that really well, but unfortunately, the tone really wasn't that well realized, I have to say. I think especially the horror stuff really just felt very shoehorned in there. I really did not feel it worked out very well, and really I think that very much failed when it came to the directing. But let's get to my major problem with this movie, which is the screenplay, which the screenplay of this movie is one of the most underwhelming, not boring, because I wouldn't really say the movie's boring, but it's very slow, it's very sluggish, and sometimes just completely ridiculous, and I'm gonna get into that, but the screenplay for this movie, I really was not a fan of, and it's mainly because of the characters. The characters in this movie just aren't that interesting. There's nothing interesting about Katie or about Lizzie. I didn't care that much about either of them, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't really care if they lived or died. Kazan and, Ballentine did a good job in their respective roles, definitely, but that didn't make up for the fact that their characters were extremely one-dimensional. I mean, only 13 minutes into this movie, we have a scream match between these two. They really didn't take the time, I think, to develop these two characters, and they just wanted to get right into the monster. And after we're introduced to the monster, the movie really does focus away from the characters. And the movie already had such less of characters that just by focusing less on them, the movie for me became very, just not that great and very unmemorable because of that. And a lot of times I've seen this character so many times before. Katie is every alcoholic parent that you've seen, and Lizzie is the daughter that would do anything for her. And I get that. I get that that were their roles and everything, but they just really didn't have much to work with here. Scott Speedman as well. I don't know why he's billed as the second main character in this movie. He's barely in it. I don't know why he is. He's not really in that movie that much. Most of the movie's a mother-daughter film. I don't know why he's billed as the second main character. I get it's for ticket sales, things like that, but he's barely in this movie. Very strange to see that he's there. But the script of this movie also, I thought, really did not work. A lot of the lines in this movie, even with the acting between Zoe Kazan, who's doing a good job, there is this one scene in the very beginning of the film where these two are having this argument, and I'm not gonna lie, it was really, really cringy. And I don't like to use that word a ton, but that's the best way to describe it. It felt very awkward, it felt very forced, and it didn't really feel like, to me, these two were actually having a screaming match. It just felt like they were not reading lines off a script, but it just seemed like they were just getting angry at each other, and they didn't really develop the conflict that much of her really not being there for her. I just didn't really think they did a very good job with that, and a lot of the lines just came across as very cheesy, and anytime they tried to do something with them, because they do try to make these two very much, they do try to show that these two do care about each other, you just don't believe it. You don't believe it. They don't do enough with the story, and because they don't focus on the characters that much, when these two start to help each other, and when they actually start to move past what they've done, you just don't really believe it. And a lot of this movie, I'm not gonna lie, was really, really fucking impractical. I mean, I have no idea how the movie ended the way it did, because these characters make some of the dumbest decisions I've seen in a horror film in a very long time. I mean, the decisions they make in this movie is all over the place. I get that the mother's fucked up and things like that, but the daughter, I mean, I just leave. Like, seriously, if I was in a car crash with someone who's unfit, I'd just run away. I really would. I mean, she's no good for you. Like, just the decisions they make in the movie, I really did not think were that great. They try to do this ridiculous message that, oh, the mother's the monster, like, she's actually the real monster, alcoholism's the real monster. They just shove it down your throat. It feels so forced, and the amount of times that they do that, it was so ridiculous. Like, I know that what they're trying to do. You don't have to shove it in my face that alcoholism is the real monster. It just felt very off to me that they did that, and I really was not a fan of that. I will admit that there were occasional scenes that work, like scenes toward the end of the movie. The ending of this movie I actually really did like. I thought for the most part it worked really well. It was something that was kind of sweet, and for the most part it worked. It's just these characters in general, I really could not care about that much, mainly because they're not really that well developed. They don't really separate them from cliches, and For me, a cliche is good if you make the character more than that. That's one of the reasons I love The Edge of 17 so much, is because they took characters that could have been cliche and they made them so much more. And this movie really does not do that. To me, this movie really did not care about its characters, and I think that's one of the reasons why the movie wasn't nearly as good as it was. And the look of the monster. Let's just get into that, because the cinematography for a movie called The Monster, it's very important to see what the monster looks like. And I know this was an A24 movie, but the monster looked terrible, I have to say. There's nothing scary about this thing. There's nothing terrifying about it. To me, it looked like something out of a sci-fi original movie. They're not supposed to take that seriously. I don't know why this was the monster. It did not really look that intimidating to me, and nothing about it really was that threatening. It just kind of felt like it was there. Like I said, the monster really never felt like it clicked with the rest of this movie. They just kind of made a movie called The Monster because they needed a conflict, and then they just kind of threw that in there, and that really did not work either. I thought the score worked. The score definitely was very haunting, very thrilling. They do this ridiculous gag with this music box that won't shut up, and it got really annoying after the first time. I get that they're trying to have tension throughout the movie, but the way they did the tension here did not really work at all. The movie doesn't really know how to be scary, and that's something else. I never really was that scared. I never really was that tensed up, and it's maybe because I didn't really care about these characters, so therefore there's not really a reason for me to care or be worried about the situation that they're in. So overall, guys, The Monster is just a very forgettable film that I really honestly can't recommend. I don't really know why A24 made this movie, I have to say. They're a lot better than this. I know that they probably found something good in it because they do reasons for distributing movies. I mean, they're a really good movie distributor. I really do love their stuff, but this is just I think, a huge step back from what they should be doing. Very underwritten characters, very disappointing movie overall, probably one of the biggest disappointments of the year, and unfortunately, I am going to give The Monster a 2.5 out of 5 or a C-. Unfortunately, guys, I really wanted to love this movie. I thought that there was a lot going for it, and the movie just didn't really realize its full potential, and unfortunately, it went from being a movie that I think could have been something really, really great to being one of the most forgettable movies of the year that I'm probably going to forget about the second that I'm done with this review. But over, guys, my review, The Monster. Let me know what you guys saw this movie overall. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I will see you guys in my next video, which I don't know if I'll get to a TV review today. I'm trying to focus on movies, as you guys know, because I have a lot of movies to catch up on. But if I do, it will be for either Scream Queens or Teen Wolf. I don't know which one, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.